साउथ में मन कैसा था माइंड
Yes, dear audience, do not let the applause die down. A very pleasant afternoon to one and all present here. We welcome you all to the 64th Founders Day of Schilling House School.
On this occasion, we feel honored to have amongst us our esteemed chief guest, Ms. Subhashini Ali. Ma'am is the proud daughter of our founder chairman, Colonel P.K. Sehgal, and the Indian freedom fighter, Captain Lakshmi Sehgal. We request our chairman, sir, to kindly honor the esteemed chief guest with a bouquet as a token of our respect. Ma'am is a member of the Communist Party of India, Marxist, and the president of the All India Democratic Women's Association.
Thank you, ma'am, for gracing the occasion with your benign presence. On this memorable occasion, ma'am, we are extremely obliged to have you with us today. On this memorable occasion, we are honored to have amongst us Chairman Schilling House School, Mr. Parvez Rustamji. We extend a hearty welcome to you, sir. Sir has always been a source of motivation and guided us in all our endeavors. Thank you, sir.
We take this opportunity to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Principal Ma'am, Mrs. Vanita Mehrotra, for her undying efforts to bring out the best in us.
We warmly welcome Vice Principal, Schilling House School, Mrs. Elka Amali. Thank you, ma'am, for gracing the occasion with your benign presence. We heartily welcome all our dear students. We commence the proceedings for the day by invoking the blessings of the Almighty and lighting the auspicious lamp. We request Honorable Chief Guest Ms. Subhashini Ali, Chairman Sir, Principal Ma'am and Vice Principal Ma'am to kindly come forward.
Lighting of lamp before a ceremony spreads divine grace. Light and brightness represents the positive spirit.
The flame symbolizes wisdom and knowledge.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
May this light illuminate the humble initiative. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. As we celebrate the 64th Founders Day of our school today, let us walk down the memory lane. The journey of Schilling House School began the United Kingdom Citizens Association. The transition from UKCA to Schilling House took place on 20th December 1958.
Now we see UKCA flags marching out and the Schilling House logo rolling in all its glory. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today we celebrate 64 years of immense glory.
What a proud moment for all of us.
From UKCA to present-day Schilling House.
Can we hear a huge round of applause for our school? The school started with just 39 students in 5 classes. An amalgamation of the British and the Indian students.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, just 39 students.
With such a humble beginning, Schilling House School is proudly nurturing more than 3,000 students today.
Yes, dear audience, more than 3,000 students. As the strength increased, the expansion continued. Schilling House grew by leaps and bounds, and the number kept on increasing. The campus shifted from Lalambli to Watergrove. And then Zowell came into existence in 1980.
Yes, dear audience, please make a note. Schilling House was one of the few non-missionary English medium schools in the state.
Another important milestone. It was in the year 1986 that the school got affiliated to Council for Indian School Certificate Examinations Board. The first CISCE batch of the school had just 8 students. Let the applause not die down, dear audience.
Moving on, for achievements galore, Schilling House was ranked #1 school in UP by the Times of India.
Here we have the award on the screen. Let's hear it very loud for the #1 school in Uttar Pradesh.
We also received the Brainbeat School Excellence Award 2020.
Among other awards, the school has been recognized as India's top ICSE school by Education Today.
The achievements were feasible only because of the undying efforts of the school management, the staff, and the students.
So let's hear it very loud for them. Schillingites have been constantly working hard and have proved their mettle in every field. The list of achievements is endless, yet it cannot be complete without the special mention of Vishal Dikshit, who secured the ISC All India 3rd position. Vishal is currently pursuing engineering from BITS Pilani.
Next we have Rohini Chandrasekhar, who became the ISC 2nd national topper.
Rohini completed her post-graduation from JIPMER, Pondicherry. Rohini and Vishal have passed out, but we have our juniors portraying them. And ladies and gentlemen, we have our ICSE national topper, Anika Gupta. Anika is an extremely diligent student and plans to pursue MBBS in future. Can we hear it very loud for our national academic achievers?
From academics to oratory to creative writing and sports, Schillingites have excelled all around. To name a few, Himakriti and Vaishnavi Mohan won the national debate competition.
Himakriti passed out from IIM Indore and Vaishnavi Mohan completed her post-graduation from Trinity College, Dublin.
Next we have Parinishta Singh was the first runner-up in the National Creative Writing Competition. She is an all-rounder. Together with academics, Parinishta has won laurels in sports. Coming up, we have Sneha Charasia, who was the first national athletic champion with gold in high jump and bronze in track events.
Sneha has passed out from the school, but once a Schillingite, always a Schillingite. Her never give up attitude continues as she has been preparing for the 2024 Olympics.
And here we have our juniors representing them.
Ladies and gentlemen, more than 300 students from class 6 to 12 were the laurel winners this year and made us all proud.
With such proud achievements, Schilling House has always had reasons to celebrate. So, it's celebration time, it's jubilation time. Yes, dear audience, let your applause not die down because it's Schilling House and Schilling House all the way. Clap along, dear friends. Let's celebrate the spirit of Schilling House.
Here we go, it's getting close. Now it's just who wants it most. It's just like
Yes,
that.
the audience,
It is
let's clap
with
along.
Our strengths and weaknesses. Oh, I have vision, can't you see? I'm on the move, make way for me. Stand up for the champions.
Clap along,
for
dear
the
friends.
champions. Stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up.
Let's celebrate the glory and spirit of Schilling House School.
For the champions, for the champions, stand up.
What an energy. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is Schilling House School.
We take this opportunity to sincerely thank the school managing committee for their long years of dedicated service to the school. They have constantly been making earnest efforts to groom and nurture humane and charitable individuals who strive to live up the school motto, for others. We would especially like to mention the revered founder chairman, Colonel Sehgal, who played a pivotal role in planting the SHS tree. On behalf of the Environment Club of our school, we take this moment to present Sir Sehgal's daughter, Ma'am Subhashini Ali.
We would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Chairman Sir, Mr. Rustamji, that has been beautifully nurtured the SHS tree. We feel deeply indebted to Shukla Sir for his constant efforts that have made the institution prosper continually. Sir is not here, but in his absentia, we would like to mention that he has been associated with the school since 1979. Can we hear it very loud for Mr. Emil Shukla, sir? At this juncture, we would like to fondly remember Mrs. Datta, who played an instrumental role in bringing up the school.
We take this opportunity to thank our principal ma'am, Mrs. Mehrotra, for her ingenuous endeavor to groom each Shillingite and help us emerge as confident leaders.
We express our gratitude to Head Mistress Ma'am, Mrs. Mali, for her continual motivation and support.
And now we have a special celebration marking our 64 years of excellence. We request the students on duty to kindly hand over the balloons to our esteemed dignitaries, our Honorable Chief Guest, Ms. Subhashini Ali, Chairman Sir, Principal Ma'am, and Vice Principal Ma'am. We request the students to hand over the balloons to our benevolent teachers, senior members of the staff who have been with us in this journey. Basak Sir, Vinod Sir, Jory Sir, Aluwalia Sir, and Roy Sir. We can also see the teacher in charges ready with the school office bearers and the class representatives to release the balloons. I hope we have all the 64 balloons. This is a moment of pride for all the Shillingites.
Can we have a huge round of applause as these balloons soar high in air?
Let
Let us all, Shillingites, make a pledge to take the glory of the institution higher with our deeds.
This is definitely the perfect time for the school anthem composed by our first principal, Mrs. Nariman. Let us all proudly rise for the school anthem.
Scarlet and gray, making never finish, striving for lives that are full of the good and true and the beautiful. For the scarlet and gray, making never finish, striving for lives that are full of the good and true and the beautiful. The boys and girls who are brave are standing lift for banners and gold. The heavens are rose for shieling house. The heavens are rose for shieling house. The boys and girls who are brave are standing lift for banners and gold. The heavens are rose for shieling house. The heavens are rose for shieling house. May God and guide his ears and forces to be pledged to be bold, to act and live and die for others, to act and live and die for others. May God and guide his ears and forces to be pledged to be bold, to act and live and die for others, to act and live and die for others, to act and live and die.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, teachers and my dear friends.
And our honorable chief guest, Subhashini ma'am, would know it. We request her to enlighten us with the memory of her times spent in Shilling House.
Dear Parvez Rustam ji, who is a very, very able chairman of the board of Shilling House, and I must tell you, he was my junior in school. इसीलिए हम इनके साथ बहुत टिप भी लगा देते हैं इनके सर पर, आपने देखा होगा. So, Parvez Rustam ji, principal of the senior school, principal of the junior school, all the teachers, all the staff members, and especially all the wonderful, bright students who are sitting here in front of me. I've just come to tell you a little bit about what went before Shilling House, how Shilling House became possible, and also I think just a little bit about why I think Shilling House is still, even in this day and age, different from many other schools. First of all, you see the motto of Shilling House. What does it say? What's your motto? For others. I think this is something very important to remember, because we live in a country in which there are many, many, many millions of people who are not as privileged, not as well educated, not as able to pursue their ambitions and dreams as we are. And I think that's why I was just having an argument with Parvez. This, according to me, this motto for others was actually given to us by Mrs. Powell, who is the real founder of the school. And then later on, the second principal, that is Mrs. Mehru Nariman, she wrote the song that you have just sung, in which this motto also makes its appearance. So imagine an English lady who had lived through the British rule in India and saw India becoming independent, lived on for a few more years, but she had the sensitivity and the bigness of heart to keep a motto like "for others" as the motto of our school. And I'd like to just tell you that it's very important to remember that unlike many schools that are coming up today, Sheeling House and before that the UKCA school were not founded to make money. They were founded to educate children, to give children the best education possible, which actually at that time was not available in many schools here. And that is why actually the UKCA school was started. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit about Mrs. Powell and the UKCA school. Mrs. Powell, Zoe Powell, belonged as much to Kanpur as all of us, maybe even a little bit more. Her grandfather was in the Lalimli mills. His name was Mr. Butterworth. And if you see the Lalimli clock tower, all of you have seen it. It's quite an amazing clock tower. I mean, it is considered to be one of the most beautiful clock towers in India. Unfortunately, in Kanpur, many things have not been given the respect and I should say the publicity that other places get. But the Lalimli clock tower is really very beautiful. And it was designed by Mrs. Powell's grandfather, Mr. Butterworth. And that was her mother's father, that is her Nana. So her Nana was in Kanpur. Her mother grew up in Kanpur. She grew up in Kanpur. And she grew up, as the daughter of someone who was looking after Elgin Mills to begin with, and then became the chairman of BIC. So to begin with, she lived in that house, which is still very beautiful, but very broken down. It's the last bungalow before the powerhouse on the right-hand side of the road. So that's where she grew up. And she writes that from the time that she was born, she remembers the hooters, the sirens of Elgin Mill, Lalimli, and then all Muir Mills, and then all the other mills one by one, and seeing the workers all walk to work. And that is her earliest memory. Now, what she also remembers is that for her as a child, India was like a heavenly place. She remembers colors, brightness, sunshine, because at the age of 7 or 8, all the English kids who were in India were sent to England to study because there were no decent schools here for them. And she was one of those children who went off at the age of 7 or 8 to England to study, and she hated it. She thinks of England as a cold and dark place where the people are also cold and they're not warm like the people she grew up with here. And she couldn't even meet her father for 3 years because they were far away in England. Her mother had to leave home, come and stay with them, and so on and so forth. So this kind of separation for school was a very traumatic thing for many children, English children growing up in India. Now, you may want to know, why were there so many English people in Kanpur? These were not the children, or these were not the families of administrators or army people. There were those also. But all the mills that you see in Kanpur, which are now closed, they were all owned by an English company called the BIC, the British India Corporation. And naturally, there were many, many, many English families of the people who ran the mills, who owned the mills, and who were also supervisors and engineers who made the working of the mills possible. So there was a very big British population in Kanpur. And after Parvez and I were born, after independence, right up to the 50s, there remained many, many English families in Kanpur. And it's because of those families that Mrs. Powell started the school. She came back from England after studying, and she married someone who was also working in BIC, and they lived in a bungalow near the way going to Rave. You know, Rave Cinema, the road going there is the second last bungalow. Her father lived in the chairman's bungalow, which is next to that, and she and her husband, Mr. Powell, lived in the next bungalow. So she decided to start a school for the children of the English families so that they would not have to leave their home, they would not have to leave India, they would not have to go to that cold and dark place called England and study there, far away, separated from their parents. And she started the school called the United Kingdom Citizens Association School, the UKCA school, in her house. And I was the first Indian child to go to that school. Now, why did my parents send me to that school? I was below school going age. But according to my mother, I started talking almost as soon as I was born. And very soon after that, I started reading. So I just wanted to go to school. And I used to badger my parents to send me to school. Now, my parents, this is going to come as a big surprise to all of you, both my parents were atheists. That is, they did not believe in God. And I don't either, but that's neither here nor there. So they did not want to send me to any school that was run by a religious organization. And the schools in Kanpur, the decent schools, were like that. So they just didn't know where to send me to school. Finally, when Miss Spal decided to start this UKCA school, my parents went to her and said that, will you please admit our daughter? And she said, of course I will. So a lot of people, they were quite taken aback because my parents were the most prominent freedom fighters. You know, my father, Colonel Sehgal, he was not just chairman of your school. He was also a very, very prominent freedom fighter. He was also in Subhash Chandra Bose's Indian National Army. And along with Shah Nawaz and Dhillon Saab, my father was also locked up in the Red Fort by the British in 1946, and they were to be hanged. They were to be hanged. They were sentenced to hanging, but the whole of India just had gone completely crazy after hearing about the INA, after hearing about what they did in Southeast Asia. And people used to come in crowds to the Red Fort while the trial was going on. I mean, you won't believe it, but people used to travel all night by bullock cart from Haryana, from Western UP, and all the areas surrounding Delhi just to come to the Red Fort in the morning. They knew they wouldn't see anything. There were no TVs or anything, but they would sit there till 5 o'clock in the evening, and somebody would come out and say, tomorrow the hearing will continue. And they'd go back and come back again the next morning. So that was the kind of atmosphere there was. And so the British realized that if they hanged these people, there would be no British person left alive in India. And so they had to pardon them. So my father also lived to become chairman of your school. Otherwise, he would have had an early demise in 1946 itself. So then he and my mother came here. And when they went to admit their daughter in the UKCA school, a lot of people said कि अरे आप लोग तो अंग्रेजों से लड़ते थे, अब आप अंग्रेजों के स्कूल में अपने लड़की को भर्ती कर रहे हैं. तो they said, भाई हम लोग अंग्रेज सरकार से लड़ते हैं और लड़ते थे. अंग्रेजों से हमारी कोई दुश्मनी नहीं है. अगर कोई अंग्रेज कोई अच्छा काम कर रहा है तो हम उसको सपोर्ट करेंगे, and we are going to send our daughter to that school. So I was the only Indian child among about 13 or 14 English children who thought they were still ruling India. They were actually quite awful. They were very snobbish. They were racist. They were arrogant. And so many people ask me now, कि आपको डर नहीं लगता है? हमने कहा भाई 2 साल की उम्र में डर हमसे निकल गया. उन अंग्रेज बच्चों को जब हमने झेला तो हमारे अंदर से डर चला गया. उनसे डर लगता था, अब किसी चीज से डर नहीं लगता है. But of course, as you know, as friendships develop, as we got to like each other, they also were less snooty and less snotty, and they became quite nice and we became friendly. And then one more Indian joined the school. He was of the Srivastava family, Vijay Srivastava. So there were two of us anyway. So this is actually how the journey to Shieling House started. From that bungalow, I think it's called Glen Ridge, if I'm not mistaken, where Mrs. Powell lived. And I want to just tell you about her. She was someone who was just, she loved Kanpur, she loved people here, and she loved education. She loved being a teacher. She was a big mem saab, you know. Her father was chairman of BIC. Her husband was a big officer, but she didn't care about all these things. She just loved to teach. And she was so dedicated to giving us the best that was available that you won't believe it. Even our pencils and erasers and, handwriting books and whatever little textbooks we had, storybooks, they all came from England. So we grew up learning to write in Marion Richardson writing books. I mean, they're now like museum pieces, but they're very lovely and lovely paper. So I still like good paper very much, you know. I think now you don't have as good paper as we had then. I hope you have better paper later on. Anyway, so that's where the school started. And I want you all, I think I'm going to request Parvez to get a nice picture of Mrs. Pal and put it up somewhere in this school. Because I think that the kind of commitment and dedication that she brought to her newfound calling of education is what still inspires everybody who's connected with the school to make the school different. I still feel that Shieling House is very different from other schools, maybe because of the motto for others, maybe because you've been lucky in the people who have been the chairman of your board. My father was there, now Parvez is there, and I'm very hopeful that somebody equally honest and equally dedicated will come after that. Because if that doesn't happen, then unfortunately things will change and the atmosphere of the school will change. So that is something all of you should ensure. You should all keep in touch with the school and keep its spirit alive and make the difference felt between somebody coming out of Shieling House and someone coming out of other schools. Now, about Mrs. Powell, I can only say that she ran the school in her house. You're saying, talking about 39 kids when we shifted to Shieling House. I think there were only about 15 children when we were in Mrs. Powell's house. But then many, many people wanted to send their children to the school. And so actually, we shifted to something called Shieling House before Shieling House was established. Now, what was Shieling House? Shieling House is a building in the Lalimli compound. If you go in from the gate next to what used to be BIC Club, right in front of you is a beautiful brick building. I don't know what the condition is now. And if you look, there's a marble, sign inlaid inside with Shieling House written on it. So Shieling House apparently was the home of one of the Lalimli owners or founders who came from Wales. And in Wales, the name of his home had been Shieling House. And that's why that building was Shieling House. And the management of BIC very kindly allowed us to go there and have our classes there when Mrs. Powell's house was too small. So I think we shifted there around 1956 because I remember attending classes there. And next to the junior school, there's a shortcut. There used to be a little wicket gate. So you could turn around and go in from there. So that's where our playground was. I've still got some sort of souvenirs of the first sports day, which I'll give to you. You could maybe keep it in your library or something like that. It's quite interesting. All the mothers used to come and be in sack races. And my mother used to always win. She was very good in running. I think she always used to run with the British chasing her in Rangoon. And so that practice she kept up and she could run very fast, even in the mother's sports day when she had to run in the sack race and in the egg and spoon race. I don't know whether you have those still. Anyway, so then that's where the story of Shieling House started. In that building, given to us by the BIC. Mrs. Pal was there, I think, as principal for one more year. After that, the first Indian principal took over. She was Mehru Nariman, a wonderful lady who remained dedicated to education all her life and started her own school. And this anthem, school anthem that you have sung was actually written by Mehru Nariman. So all of you, please give a little clap in her memory also. As a woman, I'm very proud of the role that strong, independent women have played in making Shieling House. Starting with Mrs. Pal, then you come to Mrs. Nariman, then we had another freedom fighter principal, Mrs. Arya, who was also in the Indian National Army, in the Rani of Jhansi regiment with my mother. So I think that these strong women and women who were dedicated to India, to our country, to society, they laid a wonderful foundation for the school. And I'm very happy that you have built on this foundation. I can't even imagine that there can be an auditorium like this. I mean, we started in one room in somebody's house and then moved to 2 rooms in a mill building. And look where you've come today. You're lucky children, you're privileged children. Don't ever forget that you're lucky and you're privileged. And don't ever forget the motto of your school, for others. Try to live for others at least 1 hour out of 24 in your life. And I think you'll be great people. You'll make a great society and you'll make people appreciate the fact that you come from a great school called Shieling House. Thank you all very much. I hope,
Thank you, Mom, for taking us
I
down
hope that
memory
the
lane.
Mrs. Pal's photograph will be put up. She remained a historian of Kanpur. She's written books on Kanpur's history, which I hope you'll be able to access. And she kept coming here to visit Kanpur till soon before she died. So that's the kind of commitment that people who founded your school and developed your school had to this city and to the people of this city. I hope you'll keep that tradition alive. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, Ma'am, for taking us down the memory lane. We now request Chairman Sir, Mr. Parvez Rustamji, to kindly hand over the token of gratitude to our Honorable Chief Guest, Ms. Subhashini Ali.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. We now request our respected principal, ma'am, to kindly address the audience.
Well, 64th Founders Day of the school. I think this is the right time to acknowledge all the people because of whom we are standing here. I'll start. Mrs. Powell, Subhashini ma'am has already spoken about. So I'll start with our founder chairman, Colonel Sehgal, who took the initiative of taking over the UKCA school. If they had not taken the initiative, if the seed had not been sown then, we wouldn't be here celebrating 64 years of the school. So a loud round of applause for our founder chairman, Colonel Sehgal. Sowing the seed is very important, but nurturing it, watering it is even more important. And for that, I would acknowledge the contribution of our managing committee, especially our chairman, sir, who's been on board, if I'm not mistaken, from 1978, sir? 82. So from 1982, Parvez has been on board of Shieling House and he has been seeing that the school scales greater heights. I think a very loud round of applause is due. Children, it's very, very important not to take people and things for granted. Because these are the people who've brought the school here. Today, it is because of them I stand here proud as a principal, and you are a proud Shillingite. In absentia, Shukla sir is not here, but he's also been associated with the school since 1979 and always has been a fatherly support for us. So let's hear it very loud for Shukla sir. Again, in absentia, I don't know how many of you remember Marjorie Datta ma'am, but she was the vice chairperson of the school for years together, and she was there for everyone. She honestly lived the motto, for others. So let's hear for ma'am. I take this opportunity to thank the teaching staff, all the teachers who've been with us, have retired, and the teachers who are working there today. We have our ups and downs, we have our yeses and nos, but we are a team together, and I acknowledge the effort of every teacher who's teaching right from playgroup to class 12. Thank you for being teachers of SHS. You are the pillars. I also take this opportunity to thank the supporting staff, जिनके बिना कुछ भी मुमकिन नहीं है, क्लासेस साफ नहीं होंगे, स्कूल चल नहीं सकता, ताले नहीं खुलेंगे. So thank you to the supporting staff of the school. And I take this opportunity, before I thank anyone else, my sister in the junior wing, Mrs. Mali, the vice principal. Thank you for being there. We are a team together. And above all, my little bachas. Thank you, children, for being our students, for being flowers in our garden of life. Thank you very much. And today, in the true sense, I'm feeling we're celebrating Founders Day by the presence of a revered chief guest. I would say our very own Shillingite, Mrs. Subhashini Ali. She is not only ex-Shillingite, she is the daughter of freedom fighters, our founder chairman, Colonel Sehgal. So a very, very loud applause, standing ovation for Ma'am Subhashini Ali. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for being with us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, children.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. To culminate the celebration of the school's 64th Founders Day, let us all proudly say the school cheer written by the students. We'll start on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1.
Shout out loud! Say it right!
Aspiring towards greater heights, we are the Shillingites.
We now request everyone to kindly rise for the national anthem.
Students, please be seated.